You are now listening to pursUance Straight Out the Box, the power of collaboration, choice of freedom and liberation. Imagine hope, create action, visualize change. Go after the better you. Hey y'all, this is Taniki Richard here, and I have a very special guest who is near and dear to my heart. Retired USMC veteran, cybersecurity IT integration lead, author, and co-founder of JT Inspire, Brandon Richard.
Hey, how you doing, Taniki?
How are you, Brandon?
Thank you for having me, especially the first show. It is always an honor and a pleasure to be on the first show, to be the one to open it up. However, there's a lot of pressure, so hopefully I don't let you down.
No pressure at all. This is just a regular conversation between two individuals, and I'm definitely excited to hear exactly what you have to say because you have an open mind about things. And today's topic is all about a man's perspective. There are listeners out there, women and men. They have opinions, and we want to hear from you, men, about certain things that are going on in society. So we have different topics that we're going to cover today, and I just want to get your full insight on some of those things. But let's talk a little bit about you. You have a cybersecurity degree.
Correct. I graduated from Regent University 2019, right before I retired from the Marine Corps after 21 years. I graduated with cybersecurity. So Bachelor of Science, cybersecurity, and currently working on my master's in cybersecurity.
Now, do you find that there are a lot of minorities in cybersecurity coming up now?
I think there's more now than it has been in the past. However, I think as a community, and when I speak our community, I would say Black to be, for the lack of a better term, but our community, with the amount of money we spend in electronics, I don't think nearly enough as we should in our community.
Right. They got STEM programs out there for high schools that can afford those type of STEM programs. A lot of them are gearing towards trying to teach children cybersecurity. Why do you think that is?
I think cybersecurity is becoming like your normal hospital, right? So you're always going to need a hospital because people are always going to get sick, as we can see, and people are always going to need some kind of doctor to get them fixed. Same thing with cybersecurity. The more technology grows, the more electronic devices, we call them IoTs, Internet of Things, right? So those are your laptops, those are your smart devices, cell phones, Fitbits, Apple Watches, Samsung Watches. Those things control or have access to personal data, right? So the more personal data that you have in control of, the more information that you put out there about yourself. And you will need somebody to safeguard that information as you put it out there.
Okay, so you're like, if you're referring to the hospitals and they're always needing cybersecurity, you're like the anecdote, or what are you compared to, like finding the person who's doing the wrong, that's on the computer, that's stealing your money, or for government, since you work for the government, getting in there and finding top secret information? What do you refer yourself to?
So kind of like your flu vaccination, right? So in order to beat the flu, sometimes you have to put the flu or the flu antibodies within your body, right? So you put those in your body, and those help in strengthening your white blood cells. So you have different levels of cybersecurity. You have information assurance, and you have most of us is familiar with, especially in the government, your information awareness. Don't walk around with your driver's license or your personal information in your pocket or where it's easy accessible. Or for those people that are not familiar with that example, covering your PIN when you're logging into an ATM. Those are little things you do to protect yourself.
And that's the awareness part.
That's the awareness part.
Your job is a little bit deeper than awareness.
My job can get a little bit deeper than awareness. My job is protecting those operating systems, some things that may be a little bit more confidential. So my job is ensuring that, hey, you don't put those things out in social media and making you aware of what you're actually putting out about yourself.
So if a Trojan horse Is that the right
A
term?
Trojan, yes.
Okay, so, well, I always refer it to like the Greek Trojan
No,
horse,
that's
and then when they
exactly what it
see,
is. That's
okay,
exactly what it is.
so it's like back in the day when they tried to infiltrate the fort, they took the horse, the Trojan horse, and they built it so that there were soldiers inside the horse.
Correct.
So when the castle opened up and they let them in, they basically let the enemies in.
Correct.
And so that's where they get that term Trojan.
Correct. So when your personal laptops, let's just talk about your personal laptop. So sometimes your laptop will access certain websites, whatever that may be. So if someone has access to that website, what they'll do is they'll put their malicious code, your virus or your attacking software, they'll put it in something your laptop think it is normal. They'll put it in something your laptop will easily accept. But within the coding is a code to break into your laptop. Thus the Trojan horse. So for some of us saw old Brad Pitt and Troy, they would get in there, and then when you went to sleep, next thing you know, you got people jumping around there throwing arrows at your ankles.
Wow. Okay, so that is it kind of gives me a real visual about the coronavirus that's going on right now. So if the Trojan is like a coronavirus that gets into your body,
Common cold.
you're like the
I'm like
antidote.
the antidote. I'm
And
your
you're
immune system. I'm your someone can say your vitamin C. So when anybody gets sick, what they do is they put that vitamin C, make sure their vitamin C immune is strong. That's me. I try to inform, I try to react, and I try to make sure people know of the little small things that can affect you and put your information out there.
And you build up walls so that if a hacker was supposed to come into a government system, you build like multiple walls that will allow them to, or you get through the wall.
So what I do is
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not the cybersecurity guy. I think I'm trying to get a good grasp on this.
So a lot of that has to do, and I always reference to people's personal laptops because those what people are more concerned about.
They use that the most.
They use that the most.
Or their cell phones.
They use them most. So what you have is you have firewalls. You have your firewalls that come preloaded on your laptop, and what that does is let your laptop know when there's unofficial or unauthorized access on your laptops. So personally, you put that firewall, whether it be Norton antivirus firewall or WebRoot. If you go to Best Buy, you see a lot of WebRoot firewalls, and you put up that firewall, right? So believe it or not, though, most people gain access to your information from social media and word of mouth. You'll tell someone everything about yourself in order to get access to your information. A lot of that comes from personal information.
Wow. So you're the person that, how do you catch a hacker or how do you catch a virus or a Trojan in the system?
So the biggest thing is educating yourself and preparing yourself. If someone has enough time to gain access to your information, they're going to gain access. Those tools, firewalls, antivirus, are just what we call things that help slow the attacker as you identify your laptop. So what you want to do is be aware of what you're looking at. So if a hacker has 3 days to get into it, they're going to take the 3 days and get into it. However, you have software that catches that and tells you, hey, get out of that website. Or you ever been on your cell phone and you click a link and it says this link is basically this
Yes.
link is, and you bag out of it. That's your software protecting you from getting into that.
Okay, so the biggest thing is if those firewalls are already there, built into the system, and a hacker comes in or some type of Trojan comes in, there's a certain amount of time before they actually get what they want, that information, and you identify that for the government to close up those holes. You don't do that.
No, what I do is I just look at software. And I basically make sure that software vulnerabilities are accounted for, and I make sure that those things are identified.
Okay, so how do you like it?
I like it. Personally, I do my own cybersecurity within what I like to know, and being a certified ethical hacker and understanding how attackers would attack anyone. That's something personally near and dear to my heart that I like doing. I think it's like playing police officer. It's kind of like a cat and mouse game that I like to play.
Okay, and you were a part of this cat and mouse game with Regent when they were leading some of the simulations, I believe it's called, for Cyber Lab in their programs.
So what you do is you have cyber wars with colleges, and what you're doing is competing against other colleges. First, you're on the defense. So colleges and are trying to break into your cyber lab. You have to detect, identify, and stop. And then you're on the offensive, where you have to break into somebody else's, and you have to prepare and get your stuff together, and then attack. And they have to detect, prepare, and stop. So it was very enlightening to do that. It was a cyber summit that I was a part of, and a cyber war that I got the opportunity to learn more about.
Simulation, not a real war, right?
Simulation.
And speaking of war, you were in Iraq with me, actually. You were my battle buddy, and you held me down. You made sure I was safe going to and from the chow hall and any type of dangers that were on base at the time. So I appreciate you for that.
Hey, I try.
You did. You tried to the point where I ended up marrying you
many
years later.
You also have always been a great conversationalist, and you opened my eyes to a lot of things, as hopefully I did to you. So I think we kind of kicked it off. We was on two totally different sides of the spectrum, but on the same plane. So we came together there in the middle.
Being from Tuscaloosa, Alabama,
Roll Tide.
You had to say Roll Tide.
Absolutely.
Right. Roll Tide, roll. Being from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, growing up in the South, were there a lot of people in your area that dreamed of going into the Marine Corps and then also picking a field in cybersecurity?
So initially, when I went into and grew up, I wanted to be a basketball player. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to be in basketball. And as I got older, I realized that maybe that wasn't my season. And so my older brother went into the Marine Corps, and then there shortly after, I went into the Marine Corps.
Okay, so being in the Marine Corps and seeing a lot of different people and experiencing a lot of different things like traveling, going to different countries, how does the way that America is moving forward with cybersecurity and teaching and education, how does that differ from, say, other countries like Japan or Korea?
So America is in a very unique environment. America is like the big brother protecting everybody. And so America spends money on cybersecurity. However, I'm the big brother. I got to protect everybody. Whereas your smaller countries they have that little brother complex. I need to have something in my arsenal that can pick at the big brother. And so a lot of other countries develop those cybersecurity professionals. Not going to say faster, but they spend a lot of money in it because they can't. Big brother is stronger. Big brother is physically stronger. Big brother is accepting. He loves everybody and he welcomes everybody in. So what I'm going to do as the little brother is I'm going to get in, and then I'm going to find something to just pick at him and dig at him. So that's how I look at America when it comes to other countries.
So America is, you would like to say, maybe leading the forefront in cybersecurity, or just IT work, or are they partnering more with smaller countries that are kind of more specialized in it?
I think America is leading, but what happens is it can also be misleading because you don't hear much about it. You hear about a lot of countries hacking into United States database or power grids or something like that, but you don't hear a lot of about America doing it. And I think a lot of that has to do with them just glad that they made Big Brother mad kind of thing. Well, we got in there, but what did you do? So I think,
meaning impact, or
what impact did you have over to America as a whole? Probably minimal. You probably had some impact, but minimal. But America has a way of protecting itself all the time.
So why do we hear on the news so much of these accusations of how Russia got into our cybersecurity information? And is that a lot of fluff or is that legit?
Some of it could be legit. I mean, I can't personally speak on what Russia or any other country have access to, but I know that there are also techniques that you can use to make it appear as if you received some information that was not received. One of the things you learn in cybersecurity are called honeypots. So what a honeypot is,
Hey, I had a whole nother visual
of
on what a honeypot is.
now, that's a good honeypot too, but for cybersecurity purposes, a honeypot is something. It replicates your network to a degree. It makes the attacker think and feel like it's in your network. However, it is in a network where you are tracking its movements and learning its techniques to gather information.
We still talking about cybersecurity, right?
Yes, we are.
Oh, wow. So who named it that, first of all?
I don't know. I know it's one of the things when you are studying cybersecurity. One of the disciplines, one of the domains, they teach you about the different ways to thwart a attacker, and honeypot is one of them.
Ladies, if you're listening, learn to learn about the honeypot on how to thwart attackers, because we have a lot of power here. We're still talking cybersecurity.
We're talking cybersecurity.
I'm loving it. And you had you being in cybersecurity and then 21 years in the Marine Corps. How did that change you as far as what you expect for your two boys, or what you expect to see in America for your children?
That's a good question. When I came in the Marine Corps, I would say I had a skewed view of what America, what the world was. And that view was skewed by my own traumas, my own issues, quote unquote, that I was dealing with. Once I got outside of my own comfort zone and got to see the world, I realized, first and foremost, when you go to third world countries, America's not that bad. At the same token, you have to understand and be able to open your mind up to different possibilities, different ways to teach your children, different ways to educate your children. I think that was the biggest thing, was being versatile, learning how to be versatile in the rearing of my children.
You have a book out on blockchaining from Cambridge Publishing, fostered, or I guess,
so
with Regent University, on selected readings in cybersecurity.
Correct.
So that you're part of that education and what you would love to see for those children coming in to
Correct.
cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity has so many levels, right? So you got to think of it. Every city, everywhere you go now has Wi-Fi everywhere. Your phone connects to something. Somehow, somewhere, a tablet, a phone, a watch connects to something. And I think it's very important because, believe it or not, we are still in the developmental phase of cybersecurity. You have things that go, artificial intelligence will need cybersecurity. Robotics will need cybersecurity. Businesses and corporations, as they develop ideas, they will need someone to protect those ideas from other companies trying to go in and steal them and then sell them. Or
Banks. Yes.
Or
Everyone.
within your own company, having specific users set up with specific roles so that they can't get access to things that they're not supposed to have access to and sell them. So I just think that cybersecurity is still in an early phase of growth and development, and I think it would be smart for any person to be a part of that growth.
That's great, because there are a lot of different, especially in impoverished communities, there are a lot of different skills out there that still have a cry. They still need something. And being cybersecurity is still fairly new, there's a possibility and a hope that we can get more minority children into the field.
Believe it or not, there are STEM programs out there, and our community still have cell phones. We still have cell phones. We still get tablets, whether it be Amazon, Apple, or Samsung, and to name a few. We still have those things. So why not bring up YouTube and start looking at or the possibility, spending 30 minutes, 15 minutes of showing a young man or a young woman or a child how to protect themselves. Believe it or not, you plant a seed, the tree eventually will grow.
You mentor at some of the high schools for our company, JT Inspire. How do you help teens understand how important it is to still look at cybersecurity as a valid and a wonderful job?
So I grew up in Alabama, Tuscaloosa, and football sports was a very big part of growing up. I think sometimes we get so caught up of our physical attributes and our physical gifts that we forget about our mental gifts. We forget about our IQ. And I just think that one cannot survive without the other, right? So some of your best basketball players, the first thing they say is they have a basketball IQ or a football IQ. So why can't we have a doctor IQ, a cybersecurity IQ? Why can't we develop and put that same energy into something bigger than the sports realm?
Well, tell us, why can't we?
We see it as the easy way. We see it as an easy way out because generally we feel like, I can run faster than this guy. I can jump higher than this guy. So that must make me great. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a big sports fanatic. I love me some football and basketball, and here recently soccer and boxing. But to be honest with you, we do that because we're looking for the big payoff. We don't want to, and when I say we, our community, including myself, we want the immediate gratification of success. And immediate gratification of success for us is cheering us when we're 9 and 10, that we're faster and stronger, cheering us when we're 14, 15, when we're faster and stronger, getting a scholarship, making money for other people, and then getting a big check where a lot of people can say, look, we made it. And that's good too. But those same efforts can be put into education.
Now, that retirement check is something to strive for.
Oh, absolutely.
But you also have to have the financial savvy to know where you're going with that, because there are a lot of sports players who end up broke.
Yeah.
Musicians who end up broke, who could have made it, even those one-hit wonders. We see it on the stories all the time.
Hey, they was one hit, and you've gotten one-hit wonders that still got their one-hit wonder money, and then you got multiple platinum artists who are broke. I will tell you like this: every decision we make, every profession you choose has a good and a bad. It's what good benefits you the most and what bad you can deal with. But know that as you go on that journey to make that decision, that is coming to an end, and at some point you have to collect and reap what you sow.
Now, you also mentored, not now, but also in the Marine Corps, you mentored young kids to either join the Marine Corps as a recruiter. How was that transition from being a recruiter and then getting out of the military and still mentoring kids?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't transition. This is what happened. When I was a recruiter, I didn't treat it like a number. You're changing people's lives as a recruiter. You're putting them in a situation where, yes, there are wonderful things that they can get out of the military, but there are also, you can find yourself in harm's way. So I always looked at it as changing their lives. And if they wasn't suited for the Marine Corps, I would send them to the Army. I would send them to the Navy. I would send them to the Air Force, because it's not about just doing one thing. It's about changing their lives. So here I am with the community, and now I'm with the community. Now I'm working with changing kids' lives. Same thing. I'm just different uniform.
So is it a different pitch for you? Do they ask you different questions?
once they figure out that I was in the military, they don't ask me. They'll start asking me military questions because they're looking at the same route. The military was just my path. I used to think the path of going to college, playing basketball, getting a degree was the path that everybody else had taken at the time and was successful for other people. I thought that was my path. My path was going through the military and finding myself in cybersecurity. And I say find myself is I didn't come in under cybersecurity. I was my job changed later.
You
And
want to
then
say voluntold, or were you told to join that branch of not branch but MOS?
Believe it or not, Gunner Sergeant Nero, who was my recruiter, never lied to me. And so he told me, this is where this is going to take you. And so I trusted him. And believe it or not, that same trust that I had in him, I made sure when I became a recruiter, a kid would have in me.
Wow. So now you're talking about passing it down from mentor to mentee.
Yes, indeed.
And you became a mentor.
I became a mentor.
So for Black men in America, are there great examples? We about to get in this.
Yeah.
Are there good examples for mentors right now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because the reason why I'm saying that is because when you look around, there are no more Martin Luther Kings or Malcolm X's or Marcus Garvey's. Who is the one that they should be looking to now?
We look at each other. This is why I said, as a community, our problem is, regardless of what a person is doing, we look at their faults. Everybody has faults. I'm sure Malcolm X had them. I'm sure Martin Luther King had them. I'm sure Marcus Garvey. I'm sure Rosa Parks. They all had their faults. But what the generation before us understood was their triumphs were greater than their faults.
And their purpose.
And their purpose were greater than their faults. Our community now is more concerned on the faults than the purpose. And the reason I feel, and I say I feel that it's that way is because then we would have to address the faults in ourselves. And when you don't want to address something that's been sitting in your stomach or in your mind for a long time, one of the excuses that we all use is, it's not me, it's you. So I think that's the biggest thing. But mentors are all around us. Ways to do things is all around us.
Do you think fathers should be the first mentor for their children today?
Absolutely.
But why is there not very many push for the Black community for the fathers to be mentors?
I think as Black men, we have become self-destructive because we keep carrying our fears, and we pass those fears to our children. We keep carrying our hurts, and we keep passing those hurts to our kids. I think that's the biggest thing.
I had a very intricate conversation with you offline about Black men being fathers, and that's the most important thing right now, for Black men to be good fathers, be providers to their children. And, unfortunately, all relationships don't work out.
Right.
But where I'm seeing the issue is the dilapidation in the family dynamic of African Americans. There are very much so African American wives and husbands that partner together to raise children who are successful. But when you talk about in the impoverished community, there is a separation.
Correct.
In how fathers and mothers should come together in a peaceful environment or raise a family, staying together. What's the issue with men in not, sticking out in a marriage, sticking out in a relationship? Why is that such a big thing now?
Now this is going to make some people mad, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think the biggest issue is we don't uplift our African American women. Enough. This is why I say it. and I think me and you talked about it. When a man has a father that's not there, or is not playing that father role, he takes on the actions. Not always. He
But he,
either takes on the action or he rebukes the action. So he makes it in his mind. Either he takes on being who his father is, or what he does is he says, "I'm not going to be a failure like my father." And so,
so he despises what the father did, and he does the opposite to
exactly.
prove to himself or his father that I'm not going to be like you.
Exactly. And I think, quite honestly, it needs to be a balance between the two. I think it needs to be a helpful balance. So the son ends up being one of the two. However, the mother is the heart and soul of the child. And here's why. The mother teaches compassion. She teaches morality and emotion. She teaches how to deal with that emotion. And I think as it takes people say it takes a man to raise a boy. It also takes a mother to raise a boy. It takes both of them, but they just address the child in different elements of growth.
Right, because a lot of times I've heard many women say, I'm not a man. I can't raise you to be a man. But they try to do their
No,
best.
that's partially true. No, that's partially true. They can raise a child and they teach them the emotional, and they teach him the morality and the love, but they also can't teach him. They start looking at the analytical mind of a man, what it takes to thrive in this world. So I think it's a balance of two.
But it's important to be in touch with your emotional side.
Absolutely.
How did you, find that balance?
You start asking yourself which is more important. You start seeing your children act out things that you're doing within yourself. You start seeing your marriage suffer. And then you ask yourself, what's more important? Is it my ego? Is it my stubbornness? Maybe maybe I am wrong. Somebody once told me, everybody don't tell the same lie. Now, it may be kind of true. It may be somewhat true. But if they start telling you the exact same lie, sometimes you got to look in the mirror.
And say what?
Let me start over. And that's a hard thing for people, because what happens, especially with black males, we build ourselves up to protect ourselves. And we end up believing who we built ourselves up to be and losing who we originally were meant to be.
And how did you find that balance between giving your all to the Marine Corps? Wherever they said go, you went. Wherever your passions took you in basketball, whether it's overseas, playing semi-pro, how did you have that balance enough to give back to your boys, teach them the emotional, and also still be there present emotionally for your wife?
I had to, believe it or not, rely on the all-powerful, the omnipresent, my father, my original father, El Elohim. I had to believe in, put my faith in God. And that's so cliche, but in order to,
Why would that be cliche?
because a lot of people say it and we don't do it. Because I used to say it and I didn't do it. I'm gonna put my faith in God, and then as soon as something happened, I'd be like, I think I got it. So I had to really, really, in the risk of losing it all, give it all. And when you start giving away things you have brought in too close to you, you get scared that you're gonna lose it, but you can't take it with you when you're gone. So why not love it while it's here?
And so that's where your approach was for your marriage, for your children, for your community.
It's bigger than me. I can protect my wife, I can protect my kids, but they still got to go outside. A lot of people in our community say, well, I'm going to make sure my child is raised right. And that's an admirable and
Honorable.
honorable
Yeah.
and responsible thing to do. But remember, your child still got to go outside. And so that's when I start looking at the community. That whole it takes a village to raise a child is not about just raising a child, but it's also making the village safe.
And making sure that your child has a good place and environment to thrive in.
Absolutely.
And you co-wrote a book with me, Principles for Change, that helps
Absolutely.
to give you that different perspective on tough situations. We talk about trauma and overcoming abuse.
Yes.
So let's dig a little bit into that.
So trauma is like a glitch, because we were talking about computers, right? So trauma acts like a Trojan horse in your brain. And the crazy thing about it is it presents itself like this is something that you're supposed to do. But really it's eroding at your ability to grow. It's hindering your ability to be who you truly are and grow into who you truly want to be. And that trauma, which we all have, if you grew up in any type in a black community, you got trauma, some shape, form, or fashion. And I think identifying that trauma and really saying to yourself, I have a problem, that's the first step.
And so when you do say, okay, look, I got a problem. I have something that's actually eroding at my relationships. I'm trying to move on, but I just can't. I can't let it go. You don't understand how much pain I went through. How does Principles for Change, your book, help with that kind of approach and attitude?
I love that, because what Principles of Change does is make you look at yourself. That's the biggest thing. And it makes you ask yourself, is what I'm holding on to better than what I'm going to lose, right? So where you want to go and where you want to go and what you want to gain, 9 times out of 10 is more important than what you're holding on to. What you're holding on to has already happened. What you're holding on to can happen again if you're looking over your shoulder. I think I gave my son an example. I told him to face a wall, take 10 steps back, and walk to that wall while looking at it. And when he got to the wall, he stopped walking. I said, all right, son, don't count. Just take a couple of steps back and look over your shoulder. And here he goes, walking, and walk right into that wall. The reason why he walked into that wall is because he was distracted of something that already happened, and he wasn't able to see what was coming. And pretty much what was probably coming was the same thing that happened before, except this time, if you're looking in front, you can walk around that wall.
And so when you're talking about negative mindset or the triggers that remind you of your past, that's the wall.
That's your wall.
That's the wall. And if you're looking forward at it, now you can overcome it.
Absolutely.
Because you see it. You have a self-assessment. You can see it.
You can see the wall. And that doesn't mean you got to take a couple of more steps to your right and your left. That doesn't mean you may have to crawl over or dig under. That doesn't mean that the work to get around the wall is any less. The fact of the matter is you got past the wall. And who knows what's past the wall.
So it goes from that victim to the survivor mentality.
Absolutely.
Because a victim is going to just accept whatever their outcome is. They're going to accept whatever was done.
Yep.
But a survivor is going to push through, overcome, and change the environment. You're not going to get me twice.
Not twice. There was a story I read, and it talked about a gentleman who took money out to go in a gold rush. And he took all his money out for equipment, and he dug and until he felt like he wasn't going to find any gold. So once he didn't find any gold, and being scared of failure, he sold his equipment and he went back east. The gentleman he sold his equipment to went and dug 5 feet. He dug 5 feet. And the reason he know to dig 5 feet is because he had the same experience that gentleman had once before, except he knew that he needed to look at a different place. He needed to face forward. Dug 5 feet, and he became one of the richest men in the world.
So that's the key to life. That's those principles that are talked about in the book.
Absolutely.
Helps you to get that different perspective for positive life change. Just dig a little deeper.
Dig a little deeper.
I know that Princess and the Frog movie. Just dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that movie?
I don't like it.
Why?
It made her seem homely throughout the whole entire movie. When you start looking at other movies with other minorities, man, they kings and queens. Her goal was to own a restaurant and work at her own restaurant.
Well, you know,
I'm not knocking that. No. Let me say, I'm not.
entrepreneurship on any level is
is
a great thing.
But what was it called? Name the movie.
Princess and the Frog.
Say that one more time.
Princess
Okay.
and the Frog.
So when you start looking at other movies, right? Let's look at Moana.
Yeah,
She was
a princess
of a what?
of a tribe.
Of a what? An entire island.
Yes.
Why was she running around there?
Aladdin. We have Jasmine, who was a princess of Alibaba. No, he was a fake. Well, Aladdin was Alibaba, but she was a princess. We had Cinderella.
Wasn't the
Who
frog
became a princess.
Wasn't the frog broke prince?
Yeah, he didn't even have no money.
Oh, and then he ended up doing what again?
Mincing. He was a mincer for her.
I'm not knocking it, man, but I'm just trying to say why can't she been the princess of all of New Orleans, of
Right.
Louisiana? Or
No, she
something
was
like-
actually working for the governor's daughter. Best friends with making biscuits and
Come on,
cakes.
man. We gotta be
for
real.
her.
We gotta be real with ourselves on this movie now. I gotta be real. And then the fly with his little light.
Little Ray got stepped on.
Got stepped on, and even he got to go to the
with
to
his
the moon.
Evangeline.
To the moon. He went to the moon, but here she is working at a restaurant.
It was a star, Evangeline, and then the princess ended up.
Working at a restaurant.
You got to find what you need and
Did
get
she
what
hire?
you want.
Did she hire anybody? I didn't see anybody working there but her. So I'm trying to figure out how she owned a restaurant and she the waiter and who was cooking. Who was cooking? That's all
She
I
was
wanted.
doing the cooking.
See what I'm saying? Come on, people. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Why
Yeah.
couldn't we have something about
African princess.
an African princess? I
Yes.
mean, let's talk about Mansa Musa. Let's talk about the West
Yes.
Africa and him. Let's talk about him, the way he went through Egypt and so-called almost bankrupt Egypt. Why can't we have a story about that? Or why can't we have a story about? I think you taught me about the basis of the. What's the Black Panther, the female warriors,
The
and
Dahomey tribe.
the Dahomey
Yes,
tribe. Why couldn't we talk about
warriors
that?
of the Dahomey were
Here
all
we-
female.
Here we are. Disney done did a video or did a movie about a girl who aspired to be
An entrepreneur.
an entrepreneur, which is great, but she didn't have any employees.
No, she did. She was a frog throughout the whole movie.
She was a frog,
Yes.
and she grew. Come on, man.
And she became a princess when she married a broke prince.
Come on, man. Come on.
Look, you know what?
Let's be real with ourselves.
And it's a love story.
Now, that part, I love it.
But you don't think that kind of represents kind of like black men, they want a girl that can get down in there and cook and be an entrepreneur.
That's good, but when you turn 70 and 80 years old, you don't want to still be doing it. Why can't you own some restaurants? Let me say with it. Why couldn't you own some restaurants with an S, and then you
Plural.
be a king and queen of a chain of restaurants?
Now, even Anastasia, that cartoon, she had amnesia, but the whole time she was a princess, and even Entangled,
you see
right?
what I'm saying?
She was a princess,
Frozen,
and she didn't even know it, but she was a princess.
Frozen 2.
Frozen, both of them were princesses by right,
But we
not
don't-
made to be a princess. I think Cinderella's the only one that came with the glass slipper, because even Snow White was considered
But
a
Cinderella
princess.
ended up owning the kingdom.
Yes, she did. She inherited. She married somebody who had something to inherit.
I'm just saying, man.
Yeah, they did us dirty with Princess and the Frog. That's my verdict on it.
But can I ask you a question?
Wait.
You remember when they made Moana? What did The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, say?
You talking about Maui?
Maui. I'm sorry, Maui.
What did he say in the cartoon?
Remember, he had a disagreement with how that cartoon was getting done, right?
What was the disagreement about it?
He didn't. I think he didn't like. And don't get me to. I don't know the specifics, but I remember when they were about to make it, He had some disagreements about how he would be depicted, how the represented in the movie, and
I know he wanted more muscular cut.
and he want more muscular and cut because they was trying to make the Samoan
look fat and
look right, and so he had some say. I'm not saying that no one did, but I can't remember any
flack about Princess and the Frog.
flag about Princess and the Frog. We was just happy to get a movie, and
Yeah, and
you see what I'm saying?
That's where I had a problem with it because, for one, the movie itself in New Orleans has a lot of voodoo, lots of cultural background to the New Orleans,
Right.
and they did bring some attention there.
correct.
But I just felt like it represented something that was already, it was dark.
Now-
Do you understand what I'm saying? It was a dark type of voodoo like presence over that whole thing. It was just weird.
Again, let me say this as a disclaimer. Any entrepreneurship is a wonderful thing.
I know, I get that, but
What I'm saying to you, compared to the other movies that Disney
Yeah.
made about other minorities,
it was misrepresented.
it was
Yeah,
misrepresented.
It was.
You gotta now that and if you haven't looked at the movie that way, now that you heard me talk about this movie, go watch the movie. Go watch it. You're gonna be like, are you serious?
But do you think a lot of that is going to change for how African Americans are depicted in film or entertainment? I know we're going all the way. We went from cybersecurity to the military, but just you being a black man, seeing this from your eyes, your perspective, how does the media, how is the media helping or hurting us?
I think it's a lot of stereotypes and bigotry in the media. I really do. I think that we need to take control of our narrative. We are allowing other people to tell us our narrative. And until we take control of it, we're going to have problems with it.
And they're still going to exploit any possible way that they can exploit us.
Absolutely. That's
and then we're going to pay for it. We're going to go to the movie and support it. We're going to listen to the music and support it.
Let me tell you, the media is going to anything that sells. And as much as we're talking about the African American community, anything that sells, because when it all comes down to it, it's that green. That's what it's about.
Yeah,
and I think
absolutely. That's the only color that people care about is the green.
Is the green. Now, if you look at our community, we keep it moving.
We're the consumers. Most of the different countries, they pitch and actually organize or advertise or market towards specific demographics. One of them being predominantly, there are the statistics out there that say African Americans are the highest consumers of most products and services. And that's where but we're the smallest minority. And when it comes to the number of people here in America, we're one of the smallest. So how do you change that if you want the nice things? We live pretty nice.
Right.
I think we live pretty comfortable. I wouldn't want to go back to the hood where I came from in the streets of California on Skid Row in hotels just to prove that, hey, I'm not trying to support someone who's selling me something. If I like something, I'm going to buy it. But how do we change that and start supporting our community and not be so much the consumers, but the people who are making products and making some kind of turnaround and having some kind of economic influence?
So what we do at JT Inspire is we try to open your eyes to things that are around you, right? So in order for you to get to another level, you had to take certain steps. You had to educate yourself, right? What we're trying to teach is as you educate yourself and you get to another level, educate others. Bring others along with you, right? If y'all remember the movie Baby Boy, I love that movie. Baby Boy. Vin Rhymes says, He says, if you remember, and most of you know where I'm going, he said, we need to invest. And he didn't say these exact words, but he said,
Guns and butter.
Guns and butter. I appreciate it. See, that's why I love you right there. What's the guns? Guns and butter. Now, what are the guns? Guns is pictures and artwork, stuff that appreciate with value. Now, what is the butter? Cars, clothes, and all that other, he used that profane, all that doesn't, that depreciates over time. Guns and butter, baby. So what we have to do is we have to invest in our guns. We have to teach others how to get guns, how to.
Now hold on. Now the guns. We're just talking about economic or educational.
Yes, we're talking about economic and educational.
We're
guns.
not talking about really grabbing guns
we're talking
going
about
out there.
We're talking about arming yourself. Most of us had bills before we were 7.
No,
most of us had bills.
Now everybody know that
somebody had a bill in their name at 7.
Phone bill,
electric bill. You didn't even know who. You didn't even know where you was getting bill. It. Right. But what we're not taught is financial responsibility and literacy at a young age.
Yeah.
That is a gun. That is a weapon. That's something that you can use to protect yourself as you grow and as you get money. If someone told me if I would have took an extra couple of $100 and invested it in myself when I first joined the Marine Corps, that I would have been a millionaire now, and made me stick to it, I probably would have did it. But here I am. I done played catch up with myself, and my family is living comfortably. But now it is my job to pass that information to the young ones behind me. And as a recruiter, I did do that.
You did?
Absolutely.
And did they receive it?
Some of them.
Because the reason why I say that is because a lot of people, you try to tell them something, but it's like when you're suffering and you're struggling for so long, you don't want to struggle more to get to the goal.
Right.
You want to find some way where you can be comfortable or live or feel like you are a part of society, not so much all the way at the bottom, which is why I think a lot of, impoverished communities buy so much because how do you want to, I'm going to say this. They buy because you want to be a part of something better than yourself. So
absolutely.
You got the Jordans.
Yeah.
What Jordans is status,
right?
You want a nice car, so that's status.
Right.
These are all those falsities that make you feel like you're doing something big, but you're really just wasting your money and your time.
Well, if you're going to go get the Jordans, go get the Jordans, but know that why you getting the Jordans. Now, if you getting the Jordans because you feel like that's going to create a status for yourself and you have something empty inside you that makes you feel like when you was younger that you didn't get the Jordans, then you obviously got a bigger issue. Then it ain't the Jordans. It's you trying to prove to those that are around you that you're better off than when they last saw you.
But, is it an issue to be on welfare or living check to check, but then you spending hundreds of dollars? I mean, it's your prerogative, but is that an issue?
Look, that
you live in check to check, and you want to spend $300 on some Jordans?
Again, and then it's funny because I try not to judge people. You know that of me.
No, I'm just talking about your mentality.
My mentality is, if I'm broke, although I like me some Jordans, honey, and I got me some Jordans.
Yes.
I ain't gonna get no Jordans. Now, the Jordans I do have, if I'm broke, I'm gonna try to sell them. I'm just going to be real with you. StockX, here we come. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So if I have some Jordans and we broke, I'm going to sell them. Jordan will be all right. He going to be okay. And that's where the difference lies between understanding where you're at and where you're going. Now, also, if my car needs out alignment and it's rattling and I can't get to work safe and it costs $300 to get my car aligned, best believe I'm going to get my car aligned. I'm not going to go to Foot Locker with my rattling car and get me some Jordans. Come on, man. You got to be real with yourself. Now, if you get an income tax check and you got a little extra cash, go on out there and get yourself something because you need to pay yourself first. But,
where'd you learn that from? Pay yourself first.
Pay yourself first. Believe it or not, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I
That
read
book.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
I started reading Napoleon Hill. I started reading, believe it or not, Jim Rohn, and I started reading Les Brown. I definitely want to put him in there, and I try to people that's been successful have a blueprint. Now that may not be your exact same blueprint, but I could take something from it, and that goes back to what we were saying earlier. Mentors are all around you, right? Take the good things from people, because I'm sure you got your own bad things that you're running from that you would not like people to see.
And take it and do what with it?
Add it to your repertoire. Learn how to do something other than be destructive amongst yourself. You know, there's a lot of things out there that you can find yourself constructive in. And
Even if you're in a hostile environment.
even if you're in a hostile environment, even more when you're in a hostile environment. I'll tell you this, for example. When you're in a hostile environment, I'm sure you got a lot of people doing a lot of things that they probably shouldn't be doing, and they're probably in a situation that they're in because they're doing it. Just don't do that. That can sometimes bring you out your hostile environment. It's just
do the opposite.
Just do the opposite. Do the opposite.
But that go back to the fathering thing that you were talking about. Sometimes people want to be, they have such a negative connotation about the father upbringing that they just, I'm just not going to be like you.
Yeah.
And that actually catapults them into being successful.
That's a good thing. But you got to know when that is it, at some point.
So if you're in a community, in a hostile environment, and you're seeing all these people doing these things that never gonna get nowhere, just bringing down more of the people that are living there. If you have that mentality, well, I'm just not gonna do what you're doing. That means it's gonna force you to do something else.
It's going to force you to do something else. But when that feeling becomes destructive and you start lying to yourself about who you are and forget where you came from, then that's when you need to change your mindset. You need to change that mindset. And I think that's a lot. The black community really has a hard time doing that, because even when we bring ourselves out of that impoverished community, we still try to treat our children as if they're still impoverished, instead of learning a different way of teaching the same lesson. Now, don't get me wrong. A good butt whooping is needed from time to time. And sometimes you got to reach back to those things you learned. However, I want my kids to be better than me. So one of the things that we are trying to do is make them financially intelligent. There's that IQ thing. So now, instead of taking my $300 and going to the store, I'm going to take my $300 and I'm going to put it in
Stock
some type
market.
of investment.
Yeah. I would love to have you back on the show, Brandon, to talk deeper into investing and changing that mindset. Are you down for that?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to be on here again. Thank you for having me.
Hey, if you want to catch Brandon Richard and ask him some more questions, go to his company website, www.jtinspire.com. Give him a call at 757-761-5600. If you want to purchase Principles for Change, I was going to say something else. If you want to purchase Principles for Change, the book, you're going to autograph it.
Men, I think y'all should really look into purchasing that book. And the reason I say that is I dealt with my own struggles and my own demons. And I dealt with my own things that was hindering me to grow up in my family. And I think just have it in your toolbox and really look at yourself. The biggest thing is taking responsibility for your actions. Yeah, you was mistreated when you were 2, but you're 32 now. Come on now, baby.
Well, we're going to talk more about the book and how that helped you to writing it, how that helped you to deal with your trauma and how you survived your abuse. And we want to definitely thank you for giving us a tutorial on cybersecurity. I think that's a really great job, occupation to start into if you're young, going to school. It's booming right now.
Oh, absolutely. I'll leave you with this note. Senior cybersecurity management is averaging anywhere between 120 and 140 100,000 a year. Come on now.
Right.
Come on now.
Now you talk about success. I think I can use a 6-figure
That's 6 figures.
income. That's a great thing.
That's 6 figures, and that's with benefits.
Right.
That's what bit. They did tell us at the Cyber Summit, real quick. I know we got to get off. They did tell us on the Cyber Summit there's going to be a 2.5 million job gap between now and 2022 of trying to fill cybersecurity roles. They're taking anything right now.
So if you're talking about you can't find a job, reconsider your job occupation. Look into cybersecurity.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, Brandon Richard, for having you come on and educate us and inspire us. You can find me on TR Richard #4 on Instagram and Facebook. Let's continue the conversation, y'all. I definitely want to hear from you. I'm going to use some of your voice messages and comments from on social media to talk about some reflection and some things that I see in the community, even as an entrepreneur. I call it Quit Playing. It's going to be our next week's segment. And you will be on there if you leave me a voicemail. Talk to me. Let me know how you like this episode, and let me know some other things that you want to know, and ask some questions for Brandon when he comes back on for another episode of pursUance Straight Out the Box.